Hello, my name is Benjamin Bravo, and I will tell you today about wildlife cameras in ecology. So this video is meant to teach you about camera traps at Arastradero Preserve and to show you how you can contribute to camera trap research at Arastradero Preserve. So I will briefly describe camera traps. I will give descriptions of the animals found at Arastradero Preserve. Next, I will show you how to use Zooniverse to tag photos, and then I will wrap things up. So about me, I am a recent graduate from Stanford in the MS program in Earth Systems with an emphasis in conservation biology. I used camera traps for my undergraduate research at Jasper Ridge, and I was also part of a photo tagging volunteer group at Jasper Ridge. And all of my experiences have really shown me how camera traps are very useful for understanding animal ecology and can be used for management and education. So this diagram on the left shows a camera trap. The camera trap is triggered when the animal walks in front of the infrared sensor, and this causes the camera trap to take a photo of the animal. On the right, we see a diagram of a camera's field of view, and the field of view is somewhat of a wedge shape, and this means that it has some blind spots to the left and to the right, and that it has a limited reach. Most camera traps have a detection range of about 45 feet to maybe about 110 feet. One advantage of camera traps is that they can be active for 24 hours, and they're only triggered when an animal walks in front of them. They have minimal disturbance, as they can have different flash settings that won't scare away the animals, and they can be somewhat of a more cost-effective alternative to other forms of field ecology. And so we used these camera traps at Arastradero Preserve, and one reason was to see if restoration attempts have been successful. About 20 years ago, Arastradero Preserve was more of a grassland and was not as heavily forested. And so we were trying to see, in the past 20 years of restoration efforts, have there been noticeable changes? And is the ecosystem healthy? Does it have a healthy trophic structure, a lot of biodiversity? This is especially important because Arastradero Preserve is located in the center of an urban-suburban area, and using these camera traps will help us establish a baseline for future work. We also believe that camera trap can engage community members in volunteer work and can also be used to educate students. So this past November and January we set up the camera traps. We had 5 Bushnell Trophy cameras. We set them up in riparian, chaparral, and grassland areas, and we had the camera set to triple shot mode. The cameras were set 0.5 to 1 meter off the ground, which is around knee height, and these cameras have 45 feet of sensitivity. The data used for this orientation was taken from these camera traps. Now we'll go into animal identification. So for starters, there are a few things to look out for in photos to help you identify the animals. First, you want to look for the height or the scale of the animal. You also want to look for species-specific traits, which are certain kind of coloration or patterns, ear sizes, shapes that are very specific to that species. You also want to look for the fur coloration, the texture, look for the eyes. This is more for nighttime photos, as shown in the right over here. If you can't see much else, but you can see a white dot, that's an eye. You also want to look for the outline of the animal if it's a nighttime photo. And in many cases, the animal will be located more towards the center of the photo. Also, don't count animals that are in the background. These are animals that are maybe like half a mile away or quite a long distance away that happen to be in the photo at the same time. Alright, let's get into it. So, this is a mule deer. The mule deer has antlers, which are the only animal at Arastradero Preserve that has antlers. It has a small brown tail and brown fur. Also note that the mule deer is fairly large, at least compared to other animals at the preserve, and it will take up a large portion of the photo that it's in, especially if it's really close to the camera. This photo over here just shows kind of the ear, and you can also see how the animal takes up a large portion of the photo. Alright, next we have brush rabbits. Brush rabbits are small animals found at Arastradero Preserve. This photo here shows a brush rabbit in mid-jump, which is important because a lot of times an animal will be blurred, and if it's around the size of a brush rabbit, it could be a brush rabbit. And this just shows a brush rabbit facing forward. This photo over here shows a brush rabbit in the corner. This does a good job of showing how if you look for the eye, you might be able to find the animal. There's also a faint outline of the animal over here. Next we'll have the jackrabbit, which is not to be confused with the brush rabbit. The jackrabbit is a bit taller. It has kind of a more slender body, longer legs, and longer ears than a brush rabbit. In addition, it also has, it often tends to run pretty quickly, and sometimes its back legs move in front of its front legs. Its body is often a good amount off the ground, but it's still a smaller animal. At Arastradero Preserve, we also have 3 species of squirrel. For classification purposes, the 3 species can just be put into the general category of squirrel. And so this includes fox squirrel, gray squirrel, and California ground squirrel. This squirrel up here, I believe, is a gray squirrel, and you can tell because it has a gray outline around its tail. This just shows a photo of the tail of a gray squirrel, which is sticking up out of the grass. So be aware that you might only see the tail at some times. And this photo over here is a California ground squirrel. We also do a very similar thing with birds. All the birds are put into the same category. If you're a birder, you can put the specific species of bird in the other notes section, but usually you just classify things as bird. And up here we have some kind of jay, and down here we have a turkey. Now to the right over here, this is actually not a bird. This is a bat. You can tell because it's nighttime and it kind of looks a bit different than a bird. Next we have coyote. Coyote are about the size of a medium dog, like a German Shepherd or a Labrador. Maybe a bit smaller. They tend to weigh a little bit less than 50 pounds. I think 30 to 50 pounds. And they have like brownish gray fur. Coyote have a kind of a long tail, but it doesn't usually drag on the ground. Now, coyote are often confused with the gray fox. The gray fox is actually much shorter. It has a longer tail relative to its body, and it has a shorter snout and face. Now, this is a gray fox and a coyote side by side. You can definitely see the gray fox is a bit smaller. This is the same location, so you can use this bush to understand the relative size. As you can see, gray fox, much smaller legs. Another fairly common animal is a striped skunk. Striped skunk stands out quite a bit from all the other animals because of its upright white tail and also the white stripe on its back, and it also has completely black fur except for that white stripe. So if you see just kind of like a white fluffy fur sticking up, that could be a skunk. Another species is the bobcat. The bobcat is about the size of a house cat, and it looks a lot like a house cat, except that it has black spots all along its body, and it has a striped tail and a striped legs. It's, I think, the only species at Arastradero Preserve that has striped legs, so if you see small, skinny striped legs in front of the camera, that's probably a bobcat. We also have a Virginia possum. The Virginia possum is kind of a medium-sized rodent, and it has a white face, a long rat-like tail, and its fur often has kind of a black tint to it. And we also have the mountain lion. The mountain lion is fairly rare, but it does stand out quite a bit from all the other animals. It is larger than a coyote, has a very long tail with a black tip, and if you see its face, it has more of a cat-like face as opposed to a dog-like face, which has a longer snout. The mountain lion has a shorter snout and looks more like a house cat face, but a lot larger. Alright, so now we're going to jump onto Zooniverse. So this is where you can find our project on Zooniverse, and you can make an account if you want. You can also not make an account, and then it won't keep track of your name. You'll be like anonymous user. And if you're using the worksheet with this orientation, now is a good time to get that out. Alright, so this is Zooniverse. This is on the classification page of the Arastradero camera trap project. This is a deer in this photo. You can see on the right there's a menu that has all the possible species, or most likely species, but you also have not listed, which could include anything else. And so you can limit the species based on size. You can also do what it looks like. Is it dog-like or is it cat-like? And that will just filter out a few of the possibilities. You can also label it as blank if there's nothing there, and human. So let me just show you what human looks like. Human actually has a few other categories. Okay, let's select deer. So this is obviously a deer, but let's say we think it's a jackrabbit. If it's a jackrabbit, you can also click brush rabbit if you think it's a brush rabbit. This is the often confused with text. And if you think it's a brush rabbit, you can say, oh look, it's a brush rabbit. It's a brush rabbit or jackrabbit. But we're going to dismiss all those because it's clearly a deer. So mule deer, and then click the number of animals. There's one animal. Click identify, and then next, and then any other notes. This would be a good time to say a specific species, if it's like a bird, or if there's something wrong with the camera, or if you want to say, oh, cool picture, that's a good time to put that there. And then next, and you're done. If you want some more help, you can say project tutorial, and this will kind of walk you through the steps of classifying. You can also look at the field guide on the right, which gives you more information about each animal. Alright, that's it for using Zooniverse. And now, now that you know how to tag, you can now tag photos for Arastradero Preserve. You can also watch the second video, which will show you more about analyzing camera trap data. And this is if you want to help out more with that section of the project, or if you want to use it kind of for teaching yourself about ecology. Also feel free to look on Zooniverse for other projects. They have tons of other camera trap projects that are really great and can help you tag a wide variety of animals. And most importantly, if you really like Grassroots Ecology and you like the animals that you've seen here, please volunteer with Grassroots Ecology to do some conservation work at Arastradero Preserve or any of their other sites. Thank you, that's it, and I will be answering these frequently asked questions in the comment section of this video. Thank you, have a good day.